It's, what day is it? I don't even know what day it is. But you know what today is? A great day to talk about layering. Yeah, layering. Because the last video that I did, we had different fonts and we had different stakes, and I've actually added some stakes to my arsenal. And I actually knew about them, but I haven't actually implemented them yet until really today. And what I want to make sure that everybody understands is that, you know, the yard card sign celebration business, whether you like it or not, has an artistic component to it, which requires you to be creative, which requires you to use your landscape that's been presented to you in a way with the letters that you have to create some joy, right? Remember, we're in the joy business. So there is no right or wrong way to layering, right? It's basically all going to be contingent on what you, as the artist, thinks looks best. Now, I think that we can all agree that there's really 3 different types of fonts. Let me put this over here. There's really 3 different types of fonts. So there's going to be like a skinny Beboss font. Is that in your face? I can't tell. There's a skinny Beboss fonts, which are skinny, which gives you a different dynamic. Then there's like a medium font, which I would say is probably almost like a KG font. And then there's other fonts that we're just going to call are fat or bigger, large, that also require a different dynamic. So each one of those subsets requires you to think about how you're going to layer your celebration differently. Today, we're going to be talking about larger fonts. Now, before I get into the fonts, what I want to do is show you what I've added to my arsenal of stakes. And this is kind of how I look at stakes. I look at stakes as very similar to different paintbrushes. I know you may think I'm crazy, but I think this is the best way to kind of describe it. So you're going to have a thin paintbrush, you're going to have a thick paintbrush, you're going to have a feathered paintbrush. Don't you step on those. Very good. You're going to have different types of paintbrushes that provide a different type of texture and layer when you use them to paint. I think stakes are very much the same way. And you can disagree, and that's fine. But today I wanted to show you the 3 stakes that I use the most. And here's the reason why I use these 3 stakes the most. When I bought my starter set came with 12-inch easy stakes and 24-inch easy stakes. And then I had to buy H stakes, okay? And what we're going to incorporate today are 2 other stakes that I know many others are using, but I'm just starting to use, and one other one that I think others are using, but may not. And there's plenty more. There's probably 4 to 5 more that I haven't and will not, just because I don't have, talk about it in this one. But let me show you what we got. So for starters, I'm going to start off with like this, almost like a 3-inch stake. So I use this 3-inch stake for putting like a dot or a star on top of an I, or even maybe apostrophe if it's, you know, Fred's birthday, or, you know, whatever it happens to be. So I use this one for that purpose. We've all seen our good friend and your friend, the 12-inch easy stake with the dog leg. We all understand what the dog leg's for. We got a 24-inch easy stake, okay? And then we also have a 15-inch H stake. This is 15 inches. I'll show you how here on the table. And then you have a 30-inch H stake. And with recycled H stakes, I've done a video about how you can recycle your broken H stakes. And I've used my broken H stakes to make 15-inch stakes. And I've actually used mason ladders to use 24-inch stakes as well. I'm not including those in there because I don't want to overwhelm anybody. But each of these different stakes has a different length, obviously. And it's your job to give your sign, I think, depth and give your sign sort of a symmetry to it. And this comes with practice. And again, I want to reiterate that if you don't have all these things, you're not doing it wrong, okay? And it's okay if you don't. But these are things that I'm sharing with you that I've learned that I think would be worth sharing, okay? For starters, what I want to point out is that when I have the letter I with me, okay, and in this case, I've spelled out my name, Rennick. When I use the letter I usually typically bring a couple different size stars with me. And in this case, because my letters are orange, I brought a couple different colors that I think go well with orange. So I have a yellow star, a tiny one, and then I have a glitter yellow star, and then I also bought a green. Now, I haven't decided whether or not I'm going to use these yet because of how that works, but I just brought them just in case. Now, when it comes to your theme, I'm going to say that on average, okay, and again, this is subject to everybody's opinion. There's no right or wrong here. But what I've observed is that when companies are making themes, they typically think about how they're going to create these with a 4x8 sheet of corrugated plastic in mind. So when you're creating these things, you're creating different heights and different widths within the 4x8 sheet to complement the actual happy birthday sign that you're creating, okay? So what I'm going to show you is I'm going to show you the fonts that I have, and then I'm also going to show you how many pieces I believe are ideal to represent an epic sign. Now, there are many people in my Facebook group and all around that take this to a whole nother level, and it's wonderful. They're absolutely incredible. So I'm thinking about this primarily today as a business owner. And when I'm thinking about it as a business owner, I'm thinking about time. And when I'm thinking about time, I'm thinking about money. You are getting paid a flat rate to install this sign, which means that you have to drive to the location, you have to set it up, which means you got to go home and you got to go back and get it, you got to tear it down, and then you got to re-inventory it. Okay, and now my wife and I are working together, so now we have two people. So when you think about it in the sense of timing and how much money you're making, the more time that you spend actually installing the sign, the less money that you're making. Now, remember, we're bringing joy to people, and there's no right or wrong here. But if you're spending an hour and a half setting up a sign in perfect conditions, meaning the yard is perfect, the weather's perfect, it just rained, the grass is perfect, there's no rocks, that you could be in and out there really quickly. The benefit about having big fonts is that you don't have to stake them. It doesn't take a long time to stake these things. So I am looking at today's video as the optimal amount of flair that you can add to a sign to give it depth. And in this case, we're going to be talking about layering it and what I like. And it's just my opinion on what I like. All right. So I'm going to share with you the happy birthday sign. I'm going to share with you, I've spelled out my name so that you can see what it would look like, to give you a fair representation of what it would look like in a yard. And then I'm going to show you the flair that I have and the different sizes. Okay. And then I'm going to stake it. I'll put the camera out and I'll fast forward and I'll stake it to show you how I like it. Now, my wife isn't home, and she actually, in her defense, does a much better job at this than I do. Okay, so I'm on my deck and I have my sign set up, and so that you can see what it looks like. And I'm going to walk towards it so that you see. All right. So here's our sign. As you can see, that these are big fonts, and I have Rennick spelled down at the bottom. Now, the benefit about having big fonts is that when you're using the letter I and you're using the letter T, okay, you will have to anchor them like I have with H stakes. Now, some people use larger H stakes or thinner H stakes, so they don't have to anchor them like I have. I have a video about this. Now, what I like about these fonts is that the Y connects to the H stake, so it's staked nicely, right? And I don't have to worry about it. And so is the P. So I can use the H stakes much easier. And what does this mean at the end of the day? It means I can set up my stuff before I go. I can lay this thing out and spend less time installing the I's, in this case the T's, and even the whole happy birthday much quicker, okay? So this is the benefit of having a bigger font. And there's times when you would use it and there's times that you wouldn't use it. I happen to like using it a lot. So now, let's get into the flare, because I think the flare is important to mention because it will have an impact on your depth. So in this case, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I had 15 pieces of flare that I'm going to use to stake this thing out, and I'm going to show it to you. So we have two presents, okay? We have this guy and we have this guy, and they're roughly about 2 feet tall, okay? Then we have these smaller pieces that are going to be anywhere between 16 to 12 inches. These are my balloon animals, okay? And they all correspond with the color of the actual happy birthday. I have a 24-inch cake. I have stars in different colors, and then I have 2 different types of balloons. I have single balloons. All right, these are about, I'd say 16 inches high, and then I have a bundle of balloons, and they all color coordinate. I hope they all color coordinate, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up my camera, and I'm going to take as much time as I need, but I'll fast forward it for you, for your viewing pleasure, how I set these things up to provide depth. And then I'm also going to show you what I'm using by inserting comments into the video on the stakes that I incorporate. So in this case, I'm going to be using a lot of the same stakes that I've used before. Now, what I will say with regards to Rennick, okay, all of the letters that spell out Rennick are using the 15-inch easy stakes, okay, because R-E-N-C-K are wide enough that they fit. The I, obviously, I use 2 12-inch easy stakes, which makes it easier. But let me get to layering this thing, and you can see what I'm talking about, and I'll pause along the way. All right? So, hang on. Now, the other component I want to mention here too is when it comes to layering, I hope everybody can see this. When it comes to layering, you know, just put it down here like this. What I'm going to attempt to do is with the H stakes that I have, I'm in theory anchoring the right and left side of my sign. What I want to do is I want to draw the person's eyes from the right and to the left into the name. So the theory behind this layering is I'm going to use the 30-inch H stakes to anchor, and then I'm going to angle and draw the flare into the person that I'm celebrating, which in this case happens to be Rennick. So 2 H stakes to anchor each side of the sign. All right. okay? So I would typically set this up in my head before I go. But if you look at this and you look at the happy birthday and you look at the angle, I mean, it's not perfect, right? But if you look at the way I have this set up, it's kind of angling down to R, right? And then when you see this, the height is kind of angling down to the K. All right. This is, again, just my personal preference. All right. So, again, could it be more elaborate? Absolutely. Could it have more flair? 100%. Okay. But this video is more about getting in and getting out quickly, because you're making money. And I can't imagine somebody waking up and not being overwhelmed by seeing that. What do you think? All right. Hey, if you've liked this video and you think this content is good, please like this video. Please consider subscribing to my channel. You can also check out our sponsors, LawnCandySupply.com and signwayonline.net. If you're interested in items that I sell on my website, you can visit me at signfairies.net, and you can purchase merchandise and various other things on the website there as well. You'll be supporting my channel and me as we grow this thing. So yeah, that's it, guys. I hope all of you have an epic rest of your day and make it happen.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You'll never have the sacred stone. Oh, this you crazy mother.